Welcome to Wellness Radio with Dr. Jeanette Gallagher as your host. Her show discusses topics of health, wellness, and spirituality, and is about discovering your place in this great universe, from your cells to the cosmos. Along with her guests, in casual conversation, she strives to ask the difficult questions that may be holding you back from a vibrant life, and shares new ideas that may inspire you to make a change in your life that you only can see in your dreams. And now, here is Dr. Jeanette Gallagher.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Wellness Radio. This is Dr. Jeanette Gallagher, and it's a pleasure to have you with us here this evening. Tonight we are going to take a gentle breeze, as I call it, to dance in the ethers with our emotions, our feelings, our sense of being, what is going around, what is coming up for us, perhaps maybe what is dancing in our mind, our thoughts, and our heart. How do we connect with it? How do we focus in on it? How do we feel into it? And how do we truly say, oh my goodness, I don't know what this is, but what kind of guidance can I find? Today we're going to be talking about an Oracle 40 card deck. My guest today is Kim McElroy. She is a co-creator with Sandra Wallen of the Council of Horses Oracle deck card. And I truly love these cards because as a medium, I set my hand on the box before I even open them up. And I just got a gentle reminder of a nice burnt orange, kind of reddish horse with a white mark on the forehead. I gently set my head against the horse's head, and I just felt into it. And there was just a sense of love and peace, kindness, heartfelt warmth, and just be able to drift off into sleep. How can we connect with that? Perhaps maybe sometimes need a gentle reminder, and that's what we'll be talking about today. Kim, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
I'm delighted to be here with you and your listeners. Thank you, Dr. Jeanette.
So glad to have you when we talk about these cards. Many people say, you know, I really kind of don't need a dissertation. I don't need to read a book about how I need to do this, that, or the other. Sometimes I just need to connect. Don't you think that's what Oracle cards are all about?
Yes, I do. I feel like they're talismans and keystones that just allow us to focus on one aspect at a time because we're, barraged by too much information surrounding us all the time.
Yeah. For myself, everybody has been telling me I'm almost 70, they've probably been telling me for 50 years, where's your book, where is it at? And I'm like, just listen to my words. Everything is right there, And I think sometimes the simpler that we can speak, the less that we can try to push people down into the funnel and validate and justify and have a reason for everything, then we can also open the door and allow them to have their own experience. That's what I think Oracle cards are all about, perhaps?
Absolutely. That's a lovely description.
You know what? I really like them because we always have these phrases, and we say kindness, generosity, peace, maybe just time to open the door, or maybe go outside. These gentle reminders, if you're pulling from a card deck just one card a day, all of a sudden it seems to be, oh, maybe that's what I needed today. Perhaps?
Yes, I think that it's like each one is a window to a concept, and
right.
Especially if the reader takes a moment to reflect on what that means to them, instead of just going, I've got this big question I need an answer to, I need a direction. If they just tune in with, in this case, the beings, the horses and the cards, they have a moment to actually spend with themselves and that being.
It's interesting. I just pulled a card just now, and it was Wind Horses, Invisible Forces. And I look outside, and today it's very stormy outside, and it's very windy, and it's just like all of a sudden keeps coming up, and it's tumultuous outside. And when I looked at your card, you have a picture of the clouds, and I can see all these faces in there. And I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 beings in the clouds, perhaps.
Yes. Yeah. that series has always been very powerful for people. I call them horses in the elements, and they're actually taken from images that I see of horses in an actual cloud formation. So they're not just like, weaving the images together from my imagination. It's actually what was present in that formation.
Yeah, I always love to do that. I go look at the clouds, and I click a picture, and I don't even look to be able to decide right off. I just click it, and I will go back maybe, an hour or two later and look at 20, 30 photos. I'm going, oh, my gosh, look at that. I have over 70,000 pictures on my phone, and it's like, boy, I could just flip through those all the time and see things within things. Isn't that perhaps what we're talking about?
Yes, exactly. And I think once people have tuned in with that concept, then it's like a switch goes off and they start seeing things within things, and I love that.
Oh, yeah, you can never unsee either. Once you see it, once you start seeing it, you're done, because you will find it everywhere, right?
Right, exactly.
There was a period of time I was looking for hearts, and I was thinking about hearts, and someone was having a heart problem and whatever. And I looked at my rigatoni that day, and all of the rigatonis, instead of being a circle, were all hearts. And I went, oh, awesome. And it was just like, and we wonder, how does our conceptual mind actually alter the material things that are in front of us, when in essence it's our perception of what we're seeing that is altered?
Yes, I totally agree, which is the same as it goes for nature or, animals, how we see them. And I think that ties in with horses, too, because so many people think of horses through a lens of domestication and what we do with horses, how we ride them, or whether they are in someone's life. And my goal is to allow people to understand that horses are such incredible spiritual beings and archetypes that reach to everyone, regardless of their experience with horses or what they think horses are.
Yeah. As I said, I live in New Orleans, and they're on the levee here on the Mississippi River. There's a bunch of wild ones. There's some in the French Quarter where the police ride them. There's some out at City Park where you can go in the city park and just ride them, and they're not like caged up or anything. They're pretty much able to roam. You can go to northern Louisiana, and it's free open space for them to be. So I think sometimes it all depends upon the experiences that you've had in this lifetime, in which formulates your concept of what a horse is.
Yes, and when I've conceived of the concept is so fascinating that that horses are missing from our culture now. They're entertainment or a sport, but in our 100 years ago they were the only source of transportation, and every one that could use a horse for their work in the world or their getting about before the train was invented. It was the only way to travel. Yeah, because I lived in Pennsylvania at one time, and the Amish people, that's all they ever had. We didn't, so I don't ever have a concept of that difference. I've always been very open in my life. So I just see them as so much more than actually what many may be limiting their beliefs as. I just pulled another card, and the card is Prayer Mares. Life is a prayer. I think about this sometimes, and I think about the word prayer. And with the picture, it's very much, I put my hand on it, and I heard the word peace. So I think of prayers as asking for peace instead of asking for, oh, could you fix this? Oh, can you heal them? Oh, can you help them? Oh, can you this, that, or the other? In other words, those outcomes. Instead, we're just looking for peace when we are praying. I think sometimes people get misconstrued. What is a prayer, and what are we supposed to be? What are we supposed to be doing is not really what a prayer is about, perhaps? Yes, I think the artwork conveys that, too. If you see there's this dark horse over arcing the light horse, and the light horse looks very peaceful looking upward. Right. Yeah. But it's so simple. It's very, the card is very simple. It doesn't have a lot of
things that you can misconstrue. In other words, you're really focused in on that just peaceful abyss. I call it the abyss all the time. It's a space where it's just a space. It's like clouds. It's like it's sort of like a mist. It has no conformity, and you're not really seeking out to find something. You're just there. Maybe?
Exactly. Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that interpretation, and part of the guidance in the card talks about the abiding grace in which you're encircled. So exactly what you're saying.
Yep, that's the abyss. Yep. You also have another card, the Choctaw Ponies, Return to Freedom. When I lived in Arizona, when I went to school there, and there were so many horses everywhere, and when we would go up on the reservations and stuff, it was just you open yourself up to a different perspective or a different mindset, or you just feel different when you're in different terrains. And when you're in these different terrains, or we say these places that these animals may live, you have a sense of things falling away. In other words, you cannot go to the reservation and worry about picking up your dry cleaning and how much takeout you're going to order. You know what I mean? It just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. So when you're truly coming closer to nature, you're coming closer to animals, a lot of your extraordinary stuff that's around you, that I call it mind chatter, that is going on, that really starts to fall away. Perhaps maybe the focus of using the cards is to be able to decrease that chatter.
That's really a beautiful observation. As I look at the art from what you're saying, I hadn't thought of the art reflecting that idea, but in the artwork there's a group of mares and foals that are gathered, and below them is like a reflection or a mirage of their selves that are sort of blurry and stretched out. And from what you're saying, it's like, doing away with what's purely physical and shedding that, that illusion. And there's this beautiful sort of spirit form underneath them.
I think it's really cool about cards. I use them quite often. I have probably about, maybe about 20 decks. And they're all different kinds. And some are about plants, and some are about Merlin, and some are about energy, and all of these different things. I have one on birds, and this one now of the horses. And I always find that whenever you feel guided, it's just set your hand on the box. And if you just feel, sometimes you feel like a little tingly in your hands, or you feel like the blood is rushing through your fingers, or you feel it warm, that's the one you're guided to that box. I've always used that as a sense of direction, perhaps.
Yes, that's beautiful. And I think that it's lovely that you are drawn to the horses as well, because, again, it's so fascinating when people wouldn't necessarily think they'd seek the horse for these kinds of questions, but there's infinite numbers of answers to infinite questions.
Right. Also, too, I picked up the card that says Elysian, and it says kindness lives on. And it's a very dark card. It's a dark horse. And I think this is very striking. Here's my conceptual idea of this. How many times have people felt like they're in the darkness, or they are ill, or they're being alone, or whatever that might be? And all they need to know is that kindness does live on within them, and that kindness will come to them.
Oh, beautiful.
You see,
I love that you see the darkness and the light in that card.
Yeah, because I've always said this, people would always say, the light's supposed to come in through your crown chakra. I said, baloney. You have light inside of you. You just have to find the crack to let it out, Or people would say, you're in the darkness. I say, that's so awesome. Look at all this gold glitter here. I can never, ever feel that darkness is, as many people conceptually believe it, I don't believe it as anything negative whatsoever. Darkness to me is just as joyful as light is. So I think it's really interesting to be able to see this and to know that there is still gentle kindness, and it doesn't matter where you are, perhaps.
Yes, exactly. And Elysium is a Grecian place where the heroes go when they die, and that's equally the vision of death as not being darkness or the end, or it's full of spirit and an opening.
I work so much with end-of-life patients, and I say, oh, it's absolutely awesome. And they're like, what? I'm going to die in a little while. I'm going, oh, that's awesome. Now it's time to, shake and shimmy and leave all of this story behind you because you're on your next adventure. Because we talk about the eternal soul instead of speaking about the limited human. And when you do that, truly, a lot of fear goes away. Things start to sparkle. People will talk about seeing lights or glitter or, oh, did you see that shimmer or whatever that might be? So I think once you start to do that and you let go of that fear, you do live a more joyful life because you say, it's fine. It's just like the next day, the next door, I have a saying that always says, that life is breath. Everything else is lagniappe, meaning a gift. So if you just think of it that way, you pretty much can live in the moment. And I think that's where definitely an oracle deck will help keep you in the present moment, perhaps.
Yes, actually, there's a card for life is breath called Inspiritus.
Awesome.
It's two horses greeting each other with this beautiful light between them that one horse is in spirit and one horse is corporeal. And when horses greet each other, they share a breath. It's such a beautiful ritual.
You can always set your hand on someone and say, feel and know, or at least I do, whether or not this person is a soul connection or just a human vehicle. I've done it so many times. I've worked as a dental hygienist for over 30 years. Every patient I put back in my chair, for 5 seconds, I would look into their eyes. And there were so many times that I would see this golden spiral. It looked like golden glitter, and it would spiral around. And those are the people that I've connected with for many decades. The others are kind of like, oh, what's wrong? Your door is closed. It's empty. It's vacant. It's not in alignment yet. So I think perhaps maybe sometimes horses can teach you and bring about that soul connection.
Oh, I love that. Yes, I've seen that spiral too, and it's really lovely to think of that interpretation because I feel that horses and humans are in a co-creative path for higher consciousness, and there are some people that are really truly awake and kind of don't know what they're seeking, and for some people that's the horse and they don't even know it.
Yeah, I have another show that'll be coming up. We're talking about animal ethics. I have a series of 3 shows on that. And one will be about communication. And they're really going into, what a lot of the older philosophers were talking about and kind of bringing it forth into this conversation of the realm. And I think sometimes we get too educated for our own good, Sometimes you need to just step back and just say, why are we trying to prove it and validate it? Can't we just feel into it? And there's just no way. They're trying to discuss within a legal context, can animals communicate? And what is that communication all about? And I'm like, communication within animals and humans is sort of like an AM and an FM radio. If you think about it, I'm almost 70. We had a radio in our car, We only had an AM radio when they first came out. And then later we had to take it out and put in the AM FM, but there was a little button you had to switch over to get the other channels. So I think about that all the time. Because humans are truly just AM or FM. I think of them as FM. And AM is the animal kingdom. We pretty much have our own way of singing, communicating, and being, and we're expecting it to traverse over. Why do we always need to have it traverse over? Can't we just accept that the communication might be a sense of feeling of energy versus, oh, yes, my dog, he barked at me 3 times, so that's the answer. Do you know what I mean, that kind of thing?
Yes, I think they're always asking us to look within ourselves for the guidance, and tune in. When I first started working with horses in that intuitive way, it was such an epiphany to me that the horses were there for me to show me symbols in me and my consciousness and my mind's eye.
You know what also, too, I just picked a card and it says grace, when hearts become whole. You know, we see a lot of animals going into nursing homes or hospitals. Yet that's very, very a low percentage, probably less than 1% that actually happens. And if we think about that, and when we get to the end of life, there's so many restrictions. And when we're very chronically ill, about being able to be around animals. Oh, well, you don't want to get sick. You don't want to have this. You don't want to have that. Yet, you know, I mean, I've even seen people, you know, you're pretty much on your deathbed and they're still saying, oh, but your sugar is too high. We need to give you your diabetes medicine. It's like, what?
Right.
You know?
Right.
And I think if we can start to have conversations like you and I are, because what happens is you say, I need to go out and touch an animal. If we had animals that would maybe once a month come outside of the hospital and just have people go downstairs and even look at them, perhaps maybe even touch them. I mean, how many people would start to heal with their heart and their soul, which is the main purpose anyway. We aren't supposed to go and live eternally and have a healthy body, you know. I mean, whatever our body is doing, it's doing. So it's really all about soul and heart work. That's how I really see the show as Wellness Radio. It's all about what is your heart and your soul doing, right?
Yeah, horses and other animals are such beautiful, enlightened beings, and touching them is something very tangible in the human psyche.
Yeah. And do you think that sometimes people will say, oh, but I'm afraid because they have their past experiences, but once they're kind of, I say, hanging over their end, it's sort of like, oh, I'm afraid, but, you know, I'm really sick, but let me try it anyway. Then maybe just what they need. In other words, that is their own inner soul medicine.
Exactly, yeah. It's like an initiation. It opens them up. And also fear, I think, with horses is often around experiences where people have, you know, been pushed by others in their life, by the society that tells us we have to ride the horse, have to tell them what to do, and then the horse resists because they don't really, often they just want to be with the human and all this riding stuff, you know, they have a purpose and some of them enjoy it, but when somebody's afraid, they understand that and then they pick up on the emotion and they reflect it back.
Yeah, you know, I just had a vision. I was thinking, you know, even the horses, if they were just laying down, you know, just like a dog would lay down right next to a person, and the person would just be able to touch them, that in itself is an exchange of energy, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I took some amazing training with a man named James French, the trust technique, and he teaches a meditation technique that invites the horses and other animals to release that fearful, you know, anxiousness and allows you to get in the present moment with the horse. It's just incredible.
Right, because all really we're talking about is the barrier to fear and control or loss of power. I mean, that's what happens at end of life. That's what happens with disease. We have fear because we feel like we're lost control. We are powerless now because things are going to happen that we don't have any control over. And people feel that a horse is very large, and it's too powerful for me. Perhaps. I do think that's probably true. Some people, I think, release if they can surrender to that, and the horses that are invited into that sort of setting are usually very gentle. So it's remarkable to witness what kind of healing can happen. I've co-facilitated workshops where a woman who had a brain injury had recovered, but she was still felt she was missing a part of her soul, and my mare Dharma just came up and did this amazing energy session for her. And you can tell when horses are releasing energy and taking in and helping heal, you know, something, because they'll yawn and lick, and they call it licking and chewing.
and they'll move their mouth around, and we were all in tears witnessing this beautiful healing. And afterwards she said, I'm completely, that part of me that was a void is filled. And none of us, can really explain it, but it's such a blessing and such grace.
I think the idea is that people always say that healing has to be seen. In other words, someone may have something physically wrong with them and also feel it within their mind and their concepts. And then they would go and have a session, and they would come back and people would say, oh, I guess it didn't work. Because they're looking at them and they're judging them by their physical perception, And that's just so limiting. 99% of my work is only on energy work. It is only about, that is the unseen. And I think that if we truly look at it, isn't that the purpose of what we are all here for? Not only ourselves, but horses too, all other animals. They're all here to be able to exchange energy, to help, to fill, to heal, to maybe take away, maybe to plunder or whatever it might be, but be able to take that circle of energy and just to see what to do with it. That's really what we're doing in this whole world. It's just that we put so many other validation of words upon it. I always say, take the 27 letters of the alphabet, throw them up in the air and see what you come up with. That's all we've done this entire lifetime, is taken those letters and formed validation to fit what we needed, which probably wasn't even it at all, because energy doesn't have letters, right?
That's a beautiful thought. I love seeing that picture in my mind's eye.
Yeah. It's just if we could let it go. I mean, we think about as little kids, children with autism. They go on horses all the time because they're in only that space. They may be nonverbal. They may be always nonverbal. Maybe they just go and they just feel into it. Isn't that the simplistic that we're looking for?
Yes, exactly, yes. And the horses respond more readily to those uncomplicated minds, because they're just pure communication, pure empathy.
Yeah, they don't have those filters. Those filters that we have stacked up, around us is like, wow, It's sort of like, oh, I looked outside. Oh, the sun is shining. Well, hey, maybe it's not the sun. Maybe it's the moon. And people will resist even that conversation, The other card I picked out just now is Forgotten Ones, out of sight, out of mind. And there's something very profound that I see. And right now my glasses, I don't have the greatest glasses on right now. But when I look at it, the Forgotten Ones, what I thought of was, no one is ever forgotten. And I just, out of sight, out of mind, it's almost as if the I am comes forth. In other words, it's not the person with a long obituary, the person with the long deciding what they did, the horse that won all the races and all this other stuff, to be able to be seen and validated in the world. Everyone is validated and seen in the world, and they are never forgotten because they am the I am essence. So just as you and I shared about seeing that ball of gold and glitter, we are all that. We are never, ever forgotten. Perhaps?
Right. Yes, I feel that there's a balance between, the card was written especially to bring light to the horses that are neglected or abused, and people who are going through that as well. But I truly believe what you're saying, that we are all seen, especially if we connect to a higher source and if we see each other and ourselves.
Yeah. Someone had said to me at one time, they said, oh, you've never gone through anything. Look at you. You're blonde. You have stilettos on, a short skirt, and you're good to go. This is about 40 years ago, of course, But, and I looked at them and I said, honey child, you have no concept. You're just looking at the outside package. And I just walked away. And that's truly about the difference that we so many have saying that, just as the Forgotten Ones again, you have no idea. You may look the package. You may look healthy and everything, but you have no idea what anyone's inside is all about. And the inside is all about who we are. The outside is just what we choose to project. very similar with all kinds of animals. They could look very broken, but they could be the most kind-hearted, gentlest horse in the entire world. And every little child will come over. Maybe they can't stand up, because they have a broken leg, or maybe their legs don't work anymore. If you line up the children, they will all be lining up to be able to see them because they feel into that energy. So our gentleness would come out then, perhaps?
Absolutely, yes. And the horse has that amazing resilience, and they keep going, and they can reach that deep soul in any human. They just tap right into that.
Yeah, I think that sometimes we look at the stories and we say, "Oh, but this is what it must mean." There's always a little book in with the oracle cards. There's a little more definition. There's a little more story, a few tips. But I always just take the cards, and I try to say, "Oh, what does this mean for me today?" And the card, and this is the last card I'll pull for today, and it says storyteller, once upon a time. And I really truly think about that, is our life is truly about being a storyteller, and we're sharing for today, right?
Absolutely. Everything we've shared is how the cards have inspired this whole conversation, just from looking at a few beautiful pictures.
Yeah, absolutely. I think also too is the idea is that can we just be willing to be simple? Can we be willing to just feel and not have to fix or change, perhaps?
Yes, I think that's exactly what horses do. They are always in the present moment.
Yeah. Well, I think, Kim, what we've done today is we really shared a lot of tips about your cards, and I really think they're very wonderful to be able to help and guide others that just as a gentle kind of say, hey, this may delight you in your day, and that's it. And you don't have to give them for any other purpose or any other reason, right?
Yeah, and what's so fun about them is whether or not people have access to horses in their lives. These horses are your herd.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Kim, it was a pleasure to speak with you today. Can you share with the listeners how to find out more information about your work?
Yes, my website is spiritofhorse.com, and I also have an e-cards website, which is delightful, spiritofhorsecards.com. And I hope that people will join me and tell me how you found me, because I love to have conversations with even people who are new to horses or people who have loved horses. It's all the same. I'm a people person.
Awesome. Well, Kim, it was such a pleasure to have you with us today, as I call Dancing in the Ethers. So we thank you so much for sharing with us today.
Thank you. It was a delightful time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. If you'd like more information on the Council of Horses Oracle Deck card by Kim McElroy and Sandra Wallen, please do click on the link on the bottom of today's show page for more information. And it is about saying, I just need a gentle thought today. Whatever's going on, the chatter in your mind, just pick a card, any card. You don't have to pick 5 or 10 or 20 or whatever, or keep going because you don't like the first one. Just pick it and just say, I'm going to be with whatever it is. I'm just going to see if it touches my heart and my soul. Perhaps, maybe it just helps me fall asleep. Maybe it just says, you know what, it's going to be okay. And that's truly what these are about. It's sort of like your little gentle co-pilot. And isn't it wonderful? Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Dr. Jeanette Gallagher, and until tomorrow, have a great day.
Today we discussed many life-changing concepts. Who do you turn to, and how do you know what is best when faced with a health crisis? Dr. Jeanette is a patient advocate. She listens to the patient, the doctors, and the family, clarifies the health issues and concerns, then helps the patient make the best choices going forward. If you would like help implementing change into your life and health, we can talk and see where you are stuck and how to improve the quality of your life. Check the link on the bottom of today's show page or visit drjeanettegallagher.com to schedule a phone appointment today.